Hello, third graders. We will be working on lesson 1.6 in math today. It is on page 25 in your chapter 1 booklet, and it is use the break apart strategy to add. Our essential question: how can you use the break apart strategy to add 3-digit numbers? So let's unlock the problem. This is a real world example, and it happens to be about Germany, which is a nice connection for our school. There are more zoos in Germany than in any other country. At one time, there were 355 zoos in the United States and 414 zoos in Germany. How many zoos were there in the United States and Germany all together? So I'm going to look at that keyword all together. That means I'm going to add them. And the two numbers I'm going to add are the 414 zoos in Germany and the 355 zoos in the United States. So we can use the break apart strategy to find the sums. So for example 1, we will first add 355 plus 414. Step 1, they're asking us to estimate, and this is just to give us a ballpark figure to help us know if our exact answer is close or is reasonable, as mathematicians would say. So 355 would round to the nearest hundred as 400. 414 would round down to the nearest hundred of 400 also. So that would be 400 plus 400 equals, well, that's messy, isn't it? Equals 800. Now step 2, we're going to break apart the addends, and the addends are just the numbers we're adding together. So 355 is one of the addends, and 414 is the other addend in our 2 addend addition problem. So we'll break them apart, start with the hundreds, and then add each place value. So we'll break 355 into 300 plus 50 and plus 5. Now if we have the 414, we'll break the 400 off. And it's kind of like we're pulling them apart like an accordion. So 400 plus the 10 plus 4. Now we can add the ones. 5 plus 4 is 9. 50 plus 10 is 60. And 300 plus 400 is 700. Now we add those sums. These are 3 partial sums. So 700 plus 60 plus 9 equals 769. Just kind of collapse it together. So there were how many zoos? 769 zoos in the United States and Germany all together. Now for example 2, we're going to add 2 different addends. 467 plus 208. And step 1, we will estimate. So we're going to use our rounding skills. 467 is closest to 500. That's the next closest hundred. 208, we would round it down to 200. It's closer to 200 than it is to 300. So 500 plus 200 is 700. So we'll know our answer is close, just like our final answer up here, 769, is pretty close to 800, right? So our answer for example 2 will be close to 700. Now in step 2, we will break apart the addends. So we'll start with the hundreds, and then we'll add each place value. So we'll take 467, and we'll break it apart. It is the same as 400 plus 60 plus whatever's in the ones place, right? 7. So 467 is the same as 400 plus 60 plus 7. 208 is the same as 200. And there's nothing in the tens place. There's a 0 there as a placeholder. So we'll keep the 0 here, plus 8 ones. And now we can add each place value. So 7 plus 8 is 15. 60 plus 0 is 60. And 400 plus 200 is 600. Now we will add these sums, 600 plus 60 plus 15. And like Ms. Cohn, I like to usually stack numbers, even though I can probably do this one in my head. 600 plus 60, and keep the place values in the correct spot. You have to keep them lined up. Plus 15. It's easier for me to see it this way. And it's okay to rewrite it. That's why we have scratch paper or whiteboards to use. And now I can see how it will add up to a 5 in the ones place, 7 in the tens place, and a 6 in the hundreds. So 675. So 467 plus 208 is 675. We're going to move on to page 26. Estimate is our first step. Then we'll break it apart. This is called expanded form. You may have seen this in second grade where you're separating them out into their place value parts. And then we'll add each place value separately and then collapse them back together. So let's try this one. Let's use the break apart strategy to find 343 plus 259. Now, here's our estimate. 343 rounds down to 300. 259 is closer to 300. It rounds up to 300. So we have 300 plus 300 is 600. And so our final answer will be close to 600. And so here we go. We've got 343. We're going to break it into our expanded form. 300 plus 40 plus how many ones? We've got just 3 ones. So 300 plus 40 plus 3 is the same thing as 343. 259 is the same as 200 plus how many tens? We've got 50 in our tens place, or 5 in our tens place, but it's equal to 50. And then in our ones place, we have a 9. So now I'm going to think, oh, I'm 1 away from 10 here. So I'm going to think of this as being 2 plus 1 plus 9. So that's really 10 plus that 2 is 12. So I'm going to put a 12 down here. And then I've got 40 plus 50. 40 plus 50 is, well, 4 plus 5 is 9. 40 plus 50 is 90. Just the 0 carries through. And just like the 40 plus 50 is 90, I thought of 4 plus 5 is 9 and added 1 0. I'm going to add 3 plus 2 is 5 and add 2 zeros. So 300 plus 200 is 500. And now I need to add, but I see this 90 plus this 12. I'm going to go over, aren't I? I could take this 1 away, I could kind of separate this out further into 10 plus 2. You see how I could create, I'll kind of cross out the 12, and I expanded it further. So now I can do 500 plus 90 plus 10. Well, that's another 100, right? I can kind of cross that out because the 90 plus the 10 that equals, I'm going to put it in red so we really see it, another 100. So I've got 500 plus 100 plus 2. So that's 602. And if I do look back at my estimate, which I think I was forgetting to point out, that's pretty close. 602 is very close to 600. Now I need to explain why there is a 0 in the tens place in the sum. The 0 here in the tens place. Do you remember where that came from? I had a 90, so that would have been a 9, but when I added that 10 to it, it became those 9 tens, and 1 10 became 10 tens, which is the same as 100. So that's how that worked. When I added 90 plus 10, I got another 100. That left me with 0 in the tens place. So that is what happened there. Now, how do we know it's reasonable? Remember, we started with the estimate. That 600 is an estimate. So the add-ins were close to 600 when I used estimation. So first, I estimated and saw my answer should be close to 600. 602 is very close, so it is reasonable. And you can't read that, so let me spread that out a little bit. Okay? All right. Now is the chance for you to do some on your own. I'm going to have you pause and solve number 1 on your own. And then when you're done, restart the video and you can check your answers. And you can see I maybe made a mistake. If you have just restarted, I didn't do my estimation adding very correctly, did I? 400 plus 400, well, that's 800. Sometimes we all make mistakes. That's okay. But I knew to look for my mistake because I got 787 and I was pretty confident that was right. So then I was confused when I was trying to compare it. But I made the mistake with my estimation, not with my expanded form and adding by place value. If you got that and that seemed easy, awesome. And if it did seem hard still, don't worry. We're going to keep practicing. And if it seems like something you will want help with, do come to the live math lesson. Now, number 2, take a look before we pause and you try it on your own. They are not giving you the standard form the way you see it up here. This part is blank, but they are giving you the expanded form. So you may have to think a little bit backwards. So go ahead and pause. Okay, did you get 383? Now this one did not have us estimate, but if you were thinking of how many hundreds, you knew it would be over 300, right? And probably not all the way to 400. So if these were easy for you, awesome. If you still need some practice with it, that's totally great because we have more practice. So let's go through 3 and 4, and I want you to try 3 and 4 on your own and pause, and then come back and check. All right, so did you get 578 and 669? And were they close to your estimates? Pretty close. Not exact, but pretty close. So 669 is pretty close to 700. All right, so I'm going to have you, I will stop the video now, and you can continue these on your own. For your work to turn in, I want you to turn in 5, 6, 7, and 8,